Hey, what's going on YouTube? My name is Tyler and welcome back to my channel. If you haven't, please go check out the other 3 videos that go with this video and my overall 4 video series of my One Piece theory that answers all the big questions that I think we have as fans. Watch all the videos, because once you hear all the information from all the videos and you start doing the research yourself, you'll be like, holy crap, like this guy isn't crazy, like I think he might be onto something. Got to toot my own horn a little bit, just a little bit. So, what is the will of D? Monkey D. Luffy, Trafalgar D. Law, even Blackbeard, something D. Teach. I forgot his whole name moniker. But yeah, all the D's. Gold D. Roger. Like, what's up with the D? Shout out to Oda again, because it wasn't like the will of D just popped up in his research. It was something very specific that, like, it was a D word that popped out, and I was like, read more into it, and it's like, oh, okay. Kindom of Dahomey. Dahomey, Dahomes. This is where the will of D, I believe, comes from. This is why. And while I go through this, keep the themes of One Piece in mind and really just think about it. Kindom of Dahomey. Dahomey was an African kingdom in what is now present-day Nigeria. Well, not even southwestern Africa. It was a couple of different kingdoms that have to go and do with this, so it ties into a lot. The Kindom of Dahomey was actually not even there first. If you want to go back, and it ties in with the Iligwa and the Isu religion. So back in the 4th century, and I'm going to butcher these names, in that region of Yoruba, before it was even known as Yoruba, like back in the 4th century, this is back in like 600 AD. Okay. Yeah, this is like back in 600 AD, 600 to 800. Basically, there's this culture of people called the Ife, or the Ife, I-F-E, and there's another spelling, I-I-L-E. It's weird, research it. But search Kindom of Dahomey, and it'll explain everything I'm about to say. So, Kindom of Dahomey, before you like really figure out what that's about, you got to understand that this first culture, the culture that created Iligwa and Isu, began back in around 600 AD, and pretty much this land, this region of land, Nigeria, what used to be known as Yoruba, this land, even way back in the day, was settled on by this culture of the Ifes, or civilization of the Ife. And at the same time, there was another kingdom called the Oyo Kingdom, O-Y-O Kingdom. So pretty much Ife was controlling that region, modern day Benin, and the ocean and sea and everything around it, that Atlantic strip of water. And at the same time, they were coming into power, taking control. At the same time, the Oyo Kingdom was a powerful kingdom, nation in itself, and it was slowly taken over, and it would eventually take over the Ife culture, civilization, and add it to its own kingdom itself, the Oyo Kingdom, and then continue on that way. The Oyo Kingdom, around, let's see, it lasted from 1600 AD, the Oyo Kingdom, from 1600 AD to 1800 AD. So for those 200 years, basically the Oyo Kingdom controlled that region. And remember, they had already conquered, Oyo Kingdom had conquered its own area and added it to its own kingdom. So it's just this massive war that's been constantly going on this like strip of land. At the same time, the Oyo Kingdom is like coming in and out of power during that little in-between time. The Kingdom of Dahomey is kind of being formed. So the Kingdom of Dahomey, a little bit into its history, there were 3 brothers who ended up coming and taking over, or creating Dahomey. Like, they took over and conquered the land that would soon become Dahomey. And immediately after they conquered the land, named it Dahomey, it was like immediately used for like slave trade, and an economy built on slavery and always having a certain people oppressed, and a kingdom coming to take that over eventually. So the Kingdom of Dahomey is an African kingdom. Eventually, it gets subjugated by the Oyo Kingdom. So at one point, both these kingdoms were in existence, existing at the same time. Dahomey was rising in power. They had a lot of power from the three brothers who built this kingdom. This is all southwestern Africa. This is all in the Atlantic. This all has to do with the Atlantic slave trade. The Dahomey Kingdom, like from its start, slave economy, traded with the Oyo Kingdom, and they both ruled as nations over the region. Eventually, I think this is somewhere after, remember, check me on this, I think this is somewhere around World War II, where, or at the end or around the end of World War II, if not in the midst of it, towards the end of it, the Oyo Kingdom was trading goods and stuff with the Dahomey Kingdom, but eventually they stopped. So this is where it kind of gets a little fuzzy or blurred lines for me, the way it's explained throughout the research. But basically, the Oyo Kingdom stops trading, stops giving goods and resources to Dahomey Kingdom right around World War II. And then eventually the French come in, French colonizers, or the French colonial empire come in to the Kingdom of Dahomey, an already slave economy, take it over, conquer it, put their, like, the royal family of the regular family of the Kingdom of Dahomey is still there. So the French colonial imperial empire came, conquered the Kingdom of Dahomey. At this point, the Oyo Kingdom's already not messing with them, so it kind of helped France actually take over Dahomey. If they still had the goods and trade going on with the Oyo Kingdom, but they didn't. So the Oyo Kingdom cut that off. France comes in right around the end of World War II, and pretty much defeats and takes over the country of Dahomey. But when they did that, they still left the family. They left the royal family there as like a political piece, so they could still follow their religions and everything like that. Remember, the same religion being the religion of Elegua and Isu. So that's really important. Like, these are the people who originated this religion that these characters in One Piece are based off of. So yeah, France takes it over, and this is where the Will of D comes in. So the thing that popped out to me with this was, while I was researching the timestamps and everything when it came to the Ligua and Isu and how that relates in the region and everything, it just kind of popped out to me. I was like, oh, the Kingdom of Dahomey. It just popped out. So what you figure out is basically the Will of D is just the constant will to fight oppression always, like, and forever. See, I used to think the Will of D was like, oh, it's the opposing force that's, going to keep, like, free the oppressed. And it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. The Will of D is kind of acknowledging, like, from this research, if it is the Kingdom of Dahomey in real life, that nation, that region was always war-torn, and every nation that was built out of that region, that land area, was like a slave economy built country, like, even from the beginning. So the first kingdom that had that land even built an economy off of slavery from the kingdoms it, conquered to take into its power, to make that land, or to control that land, to eventually being ganged up on. You start seeing the connections between One Piece and this, like, real history. Gets ganged up on basically by the Oyo Kingdom, the cutting off of the trades and goods, fighting for their water and territory. The French government comes in, takes over Dahomey, and then they input their own slavery economy on top of that. So I think the Will of D is just acknowledgement that one day, like, there's always people, Monkey D. Luffy, like, there's always going to be that guy or that person to fight for the freedom of all people, or the freedom of people in general, from this area that he's talking about. Because this is all in one area. Like the Atlantic slave trade, this is all tying into that. And if you look at the series, it's really all about, he's retelling the story of the Atlantic slave trade for this region with its own, particular type of religion that is its own thing, that kind of connects to, Chinese belief systems and everything that might have trickled over into this religion. But it's all connected because this religion, even though it's based out of Nigeria and originated there, you see people in Puerto Rico, Cuba, like Santeria, this religion pops up and it's a normal thing that goes on today. Like it's a regular thing. So I think the will of D is the constant fight to get out of the oppression and slave economy that's always been there. This country, this piece of land has never known freedom. And I think that's what the whole will of D is actually answering. It's saying, like, look, even from the beginning, this country was built off of slavery economy and all that. Not America, for people who might have tuned into this. Like, I'm not talking about America. America's got its own stuff. But this specifically with the Atlantic slave trade and dealing with Southwestern Africa, this piece of land has been warred over for centuries. And I think that's what the will of D is, the will of Dahomey, that one day, even a place that has been warred over, conquered, and then conquered again, only to be built on the same slave economy system, no matter who is conquered over this land, that eventually one of these people with the will of D will free Dahomey. Like, the will of D, like, Dahomey will be freed in the future. This will be a free, oppression-free land. And I think that's the overall message that Oda is, like, putting in this One Piece puzzle. Like, research it yourself. Tell me what you think about it, because I'm not really... Even knowing that the will of D is the Kingdom of Dahomey, the will of D is the will of the Kingdom of Dahomey. And I think that could be taken in different ways. Like, I think it's the constant fight over oppression, and that one day someone like Luffy will pop up and push us through that crossroad, and Dahomey, the land of Dahomey, the land of the Kingdom of Dahomey, will finally be free at some point. And I think that's what the will of D is. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to put descriptions of all the anime watchers, anime channels I watch below this video, and please get it out to people. Like, if you know someone in the One Piece community, let's talk about it. This does dive into real history, and I do think this is exactly what Oda wanted. I think he wanted someone to figure out eventually, but who would have thought, like, I randomly found that first thread of information. Like, if it wasn't for that, I never would have been like, okay, let's figure out this One Piece theory and let's figure everything out. I'm gonna go look in Africa and see what I could find. Like, who thinks that it's a Japanese anime, and I don't know what country. It could be a China. Like, I know One Piece. I don't know who makes One Piece, but except for Ichiro Oda, I know he makes it. So I just don't know. I don't want to mess up. But that's One Piece. Like, that's if Oda just retold real history through this animation, like, that's amazing. Please dig in on this, get your friends to dig in on it. I want to know if this is true or not, because it all makes sense to me. So let me know, leave your comments, let's talk about this and get it to some of those other channels. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of all this? Because this is a lot. So thanks for watching again. Have a good one. Peace.